I never look back, darling. It distracts me from the now. But first,
Five God on the beat.
welcome to Pixar Week at the Deep Focus Podcast. As always, I'm your co-host Varun. I'm with my boy Murad. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
For
Doing
for
very
those who
good.
didn't
I'm.
who are listening, he saluted. So he's good.
Oh
He
yeah,
keeps
sorry.
forgetting that people
Yeah.
listen to
I
us
think I
too.
salute. I think I salute every time. You give off a very like commander vibe. So I always salute you, my captain. Oh captain, my captain. I'm very excited for today. Who doesn't love Pixar? We talked about it last week, and I'm really excited to
Last
see your
episode, not
rankings
last
because you
week.
had said. Sorry. It's for me. It's like I don't even know what year it is, but I know you said you had some very controversial takes, so I'm excited to see what those are.
Yeah, so the quick recap for the week. So on Tuesday's episode, if you haven't listened to it already, but we spent the episode just talking about Pixar's history and everything is sort of meant to us growing up and now. And we also talked about the Pixar shorts that's all available on Disney Plus and the short version of that podcast. Pixar is amazing. Thank you for existing, and please watch every single short that's available. But please do check it out as we talk about some specific shorts that's on there and some cool facts about Pixar. This is part one of two of the rankings episode. So the rankings we're doing is based on our top 10 favorite Pixar movies. We want to break it down in two parts, is because one, mainly because I'm not too sure how long these episodes will go, and 10 movies each, like it could take quite a bit of time to digest. So on today's episode, we will be going from our number 10 to number 6, and then on tomorrow's episode, we'll go through the remainders and talk about each one movie in there. When making this list, the first 4 to 5 were very easy for me. I can argue my favorite six was very easy for me. It's when I got to 7, 8, 9, 10. That's where I had to not only add and remove movies, but to rearrange the order when I did add different movies in there. A mixture of movies that came out in the last couple of years to what came out in the very beginning that created Pixar. Again, if you haven't listened to the last episode yet, or if you don't know this fact, but Pixar has been around since the late 70s, early 80s, but the first feature film didn't come out until 1995 with the unforgettable, unbelievable Toy Story. And we are here 25, 26 odd years later, keep that's still being blown away, but the quality of work that Pixar and Walt Disney keeps bringing out for us. We will We'll get to the point here. We'll get to the rankings. But like, what was your thoughts? What was your process going through making this list? Like, did you have it similar as me, or was it very like easy top 10? This is my favorite, no question about it.
I I thought it was a lot easier than but I also I wanna I know you said a little bit about your thought process, but when we're actually going through these rankings, I would love to know what you had sort of flipped around and what was during the beginning. For me, it was a lot easier because I didn't watch a lot of Pixar growing up. A lot of Pixar and Disney I was exposed to later on, like grade 11, 12. So that's when I started to see a lot more of them. And so watching it as an adult, I was able to figure out, like, okay, this is my favorite. This is my, not my least favorite, but this would be like my 10. But yeah, I found it a lot easier than you. So I'm excited to see what your process was.
Well, when it came to making these rankings for myself, I originally just thought about impact in the moment, like how I felt
Mm-hmm.
walking away from the first time afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Then what made me rearrange it, I'm not going to give any what made the cut, what didn't make the cut until after we go through all our rankings,
Mm-hmm.
is that rewatchability of it, right? So like, am I learning something new every time I watch it? Am I picking up something different? Am I catching little subtle hints of the different movies in the Pixar universe, where some people still think
Mm-hmm.
it's part of one massive thing? What who wouldn't believe that with all the little the subtle hints
Tie-ins.
and everything we get, the Easter eggs we get from these
Yeah.
movies, right? So that was the reason why some of these rankings changed, because I just want to see the long term effect on it, and some great movies that didn't make that effect. There's some obvious movies that didn't make that top 10. Like, I've been very open about this, and I know it's a hot take, but to me, I've never liked the movie Brave. This just wasn't a movie that affected me in any sort of way. I wasn't entertained. I wasn't anything by it. I get why people might like it, but for me, it did not do anything for me whatsoever. I thought it was an okay movie at best. Obviously, the Cars series, like Cars 2 and 3, I really, the sequels to that were not great, but you know what? Like, I still enjoy a lot of these movies that didn't make the top 10. I'm gonna get you to start off though. So
Yeah.
from from number 10, who's your number 10?
So my number 10 might be controversial. I thought it was Toy Story 3 because
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I know that's a bit low, but Toy Story 3 to me was, I mean, I'm not saying that it was bad in any respect. It's still a fantastic movie.
No. Again,
Yeah.
this isn't our like a review of it.
Yeah.
This is our personal favorite
Yeah.
top 10.
I was annoyed by the villain, that evil bear was so good at what he did. It just it made me hate the movie because it was so emotional. Sorry, did I say hate the movie? Not hate the movie. I still really like the movie, but it made me like it at my 10th spot. I thought it was a very safe number 10 pick because for me it just kept getting better and better.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. You calling Toy Story 3 a safe pick, a safe movie? Is that what you're calling it?
For me, it's a safe number 10.
You got to define that. What do you mean by a safe number 10?
A safe number 10 is like, it's not excellent, so it's not in the top 5, but it's also not terrible, so it's not off the list. It's like, okay, this is a nice comfortable spot for a 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Toy Story 3, this is kind of spoiler from my rankings. It's the best movie in the series.
Oh,
And I don't think it comes close.
Yeah.
It hits everything. It has the beautiful animation as always. Has amazing storytelling. At the time, it had the best closure of of any movie ever made. Like, and when it comes to the series, when a movie has multiple series that doesn't have the source material to work from, it was by far the most cleanest ending to a potential story in the saga. So again, spoiler, I'm gonna have that weight a lot higher. But the fact that like you're calling it sort of like a safe pick, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because I don't have the other Oscar nominated Best Picture movie on my top 10 list. I don't.
Yeah.
But this one it was the top. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I get I understand why this movie will not be on some people's higher ranking list. I get that part. My surprise and my shockness is from your reasoning for having a top 10. So at the number 10 spot.
When I walked away from it,
but
I was just thinking, okay, like I watched that movie and I'm like, it wasn't a movie that I'm like, oh, I have to watch it again or whatever. Like, it was just like, okay, cool, it happened, now it's done, and I'm over.
Okay, cool. Are you fucking heartless? Like, what's wrong with you? Who hurt you? The end of the
hurt
scene.
me.
End of the scene when Andy's giving those toys away and like he drives off to college. How did you not like feel anything? You cry over everything, and you didn't get anything from that.
Hey,
Like,
first of all, that's so mean.
no, you cry. You cry over everything.
Yeah.
Right, and like that ending didn't hit you at all. You call that safe? It's
Honestly,
one of the worst
not-
takes. Is one of the worst
Listen.
fucking takes you've ever had. By the way, I made our podcast explicit on Apple Podcasts, so you see a lot more F bombs from me. But you have some dumb fucking takes like
Oh
it's
yeah,
a safe number 10.
Swear at him. No,
What
I don't
was
know.
that?
I didn't really feel.
How do you
I was
walk-
like,
how do you walk
the
away feeling dead inside?
Because, okay, listen. This is what I thought. I didn't know this was gonna get so heated so fast. Here's what I thought. Okay, like you said, it's a logical ending to wrap it up, right? Okay, so he gives
No,
the
it's not what I
toy
said. I didn't say it's logical. I thought it was the cleanest and the
because
best
it was
ending.
logical, because it made sense.
How is it? Yeah, of course it made sense.
So here's
Like,
here's
how do you
what I'm
not
thinking.
feel anything?
Here's what I'm thinking, right? I'm
I
thinking.
wish I could go back in time and steal your fucking toys and see how you feel.
What, you're gonna steal my
We
one
besides,
stuffed animal?
yeah, I would.
Oh
I
no,
would.
Mr.
I'm
Buttons.
gonna give it some other kid. I'm gonna give it some other
Okay,
kid. And
so here's my reasoning. Okay, these toys, they were Andy's, right? And then Andy went off to college because homeboy deserved an education, sure. And then the toys went to somewhere else. Now they're just, in my mind, they're still having a good time, right? So I was like, okay, it's just a continuation. It's just, like they're just living their own life. It's just not being televised on, or it's not just being shown in the theater anymore. That's how I think of things. Like I think when the movie's done, that cinematic universe is still continuing. We just don't have access to see it anymore. And I've said that before, right? So that's why I wasn't like too heartbroken by it. I was just thinking, okay,
these toys spent their entire life,
mm-hmm,
from open box opening till 18 years later with one kid.
mm-hmm.
Is not just okay, cool, giving these toys away. Andy was heartbroken. Buzz was heartbroken. Woody was heartbroken. The toys were heartbroken, and they almost got killed. And go to and they. I can't. Dude. I can't. I can't.
What's your top 10, huh? What's your number 10?
Finding Nemo starts on my number 10
Okay,
list.
okay. All right.
Finding Nemo in the moment, I loved it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and it was higher on the list for me.
Right.
But then when I thought about the other movies, I started watch like I watch continuously because every one of these movies I've seen upwards of 6 7 times because and a minimum 2 to 3 times each one of these movies because I was factoring in the rewatchability. But then there were some other movies I felt like I was watching a lot more, and Finding Nemo in the moment, it was very entertaining. I enjoyed it. I loved the story. It was funny. I love the sea turtles or whatever the proper name they are called. I love the subtle Easter eggs again we mentioned. That was very clear in this movie compared to the rest of the Pixar universe. That's to me this felt like a safe pick because you can have no matter how you feel about Pixar and Pixar movies in general when it comes to your ratings rankings. I find it hard to believe to not have Finding Nemo in everyone's top 10. I don't know about yours, but definitely made it to my top 10. Obviously at number 10, but that's my take.
Right. Okay. No. Like. Okay.
How do you feel about my Finding Nemo number 10?
Hey man.
Hamrad, you heartless bastard.
Whoa! Hey! Oh! Hey! Hey! I got feelings here. I don't know why I turned Italian. I turned.
You did it. You did it during Toy Story 3.
What? Okay. No. Okay. I'm not really an opinionated dude. I'm just chilling, right? So I'm like, okay, I like your reasoning. Let's move on. Like that's me. I'm always that guy, right? And you try your best to piss me off. I don't think you'll be able to. Like to the point where
No, you don't
like,
get mad. You get hurt. I can find ways to hurt you. I'm sure I'll make you cry, but definitely not from giving your stuff away. Anyways, I'm assuming
no, I like.
yeah,
No,
fine.
I do like your reasoning behind it. It was one of the first Pixar movies that I watched when I immigrated to Canada. I watched it in elementary school. Shout out Miss Ward, grade 3. She was cool. I watched it, and I love that. I love the turtle. I love the stoner turtle. Or not. I'm sure he's not actually like a stoner turtle, but like I just love the fact that he came across as a stoner turtle, and no one knew that
Surfer vibes, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of synonymous. Kind of goes hand in hand. Not that I'm saying you have to, you don't have to partake to be a surfer.
Stop.
But I do like one of my favorite parts was the turtle by far. So I like your reasoning. I agree with it. We'll move on to number 9. My number 9 was Coco. Have you seen Coco?
I fucking love Coco.
Okay, there you go.
Coco's great.
Coco fucking slaps, dude. And I like the fact that we can start. I'm not saying we're gonna drop f-bombs like every other word, but I do like the fact that because Coco slaps.
For those who are not like 5 years old, they won't explain what slaps mean because I remember asking you the first time, what do you mean this shit slaps?
Okay, sorry. Okay, so when something slaps, that means it's really good. Like it's like, it hits the mark, so it slaps. Yeah, I thought it was I thought when I watched it, I was like, okay, so the kid wants to be a singer. Kid wants to do something that's not in the norm, and I'm all about being outside of the norm, and I related to it heavily. And I like the fact that for a movie that was based around like the Day of the Dead and all that, and Mexican culture, they had like Latino actors who were part of it. They brought on animators who knew what it was like to be a part of that world. And to celebrate, which is really cool because it did show it, and it came across when you were watching the movie that there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of attention paid to these things.
Yeah, I think that it's not that far off from where I had Coco ranked. It's a visually beautiful movie. I think it's my favorite visual of all the Pixar movies. Because of different colors it has in there, and it matches the culture that they're trying to show off, and with the Day of the Dead and everything like that. I love the story. I love the animation. I've rewatched that movie multiple times. Again, it's not that far from what I had the ranking, but good call on Coco. For my number nine, I had Monsters Inc. for very similar reason why I had Finding Nemo number 10. This Monsters Inc. I loved a lot more. I loved Mike. I love Salty. I love Boo. Like everything about that was great. I rewatched that movie so many times, especially when it first came out and it's available on VHS or torrent, or remember it comes on TV. Like I'll always watch it, and like what great timing because with the new Monsters at Work coming out in less than a few weeks on Disney Plus, the series. I'm very excited to watch that too. Monsters University, I just something I enjoyed, but I wasn't really into it. But I still enjoyed it. I still liked it. But Monsters Inc. is still one of the first movies of Pixar that like I'm all in. So like, they brought out at this point they brought a Bugs Life, they brought a Toy Story already, but Monsters Inc. was the movie. It was like, hey, this is forever. Like I'm invested in Pixar forever, and no matter what they brought out, I'm watching it. So that's why Pixar. I had Monsters Inc. originally number 10, Finding Nemo around. So I swapped that because, like I said, Monsters Inc. was that movie for me that had me on Pixar and all in on that.
Yeah, it showed that they had arrived. I'm surprised. I thought that'd be higher up on your list, because it's such a pivotal movie, right? Like you said, like it was also like my first time. I watched Finding Nemo as a kid, but I didn't really know what Disney Pixar that world was because I was very young, and I also didn't really know much about it. However, I thought it'd be much higher because of simply the timing and the message, and I think that's a message that can be shown at any time period and be like, okay, this message still makes sense. It's very everlasting, so I thought that's why it would be a bit higher. But understandably, so there are. But so that's I'm excited to see I'm curious to see what the next movies are, because if Monsters Inc. is 8, then your standards are very, very high, my friend. Because Monsters Inc. to me was a really, really good movie, and it's higher up on my list, which is why I'm surprised. But we're also very different people.
Yeah,
Number 8.
absolutely.
Yeah. Number 8, I have Finding Nemo.
Okay.
Mainly for me for nostalgic reasons because the first one I watched. But I also think like there's no greater like fear that I had as a kid than when that girl with the braces came by and started knocking on the glass because I'm like, she's gonna kill these fish. These fish are gone. No one's gonna find Nemo. Nemo's gonna be dead. And it's such a classic movie. And anytime I also like rewatched it recently, not for this list, but just because I was in the mood, and it still holds up. It's still the same message, similar to Monsters Inc. The message still carries through, and I think that's with a lot of these Pixar movies. The message is internal. It's not set in a certain time period, which is fantastic, and everyone can sort of relate to it, like being in a new environment, trying to find your way around, and all the while people are still trying to find you and sort of like what your values are and such, and it's very good. So number 8, that's what it was for me. What was your number 8?
I had Coco.
Okay.
Yeah, I had Coco. The exact reasons we just talked about already. Like it's visually stunning. I could see Coco potentially sliding up higher and higher as time passes, because again, with everything about the movie, it's not visually stunning over any other Pixar movie that's come out. I'm in love with the animation. I think the lava might have come out. I mentioned in the last episode. I can't remember what movie it came out of. Maybe might have come before
It's
Coco.
no, because Coco came out 2017. Lava came out in 2014 with Inside Out.
Instead of okay, so I was right originally. Awesome. Yeah. So Coco, for the exact same reason we just mentioned, like I just, it's visually stunning. It is beautiful. I love the music. I love the theme. Very common theme, but a common theme of family and like just with someone going after their goals, and I really love that about that movie. And there's obviously much more than that, but to have like that culture to be really shown off in that is a big step that Pixar has taken. They have pushed boundaries sometimes, and I feel like this is the biggest step they've taken towards a direction to attempt to bring in not just diversity but different cultures into their universe, and that's why it's a number 8 for me.
Mm-hmm. No, wonderful. My number seventh pick, uh,
Number 7
would
rank,
be sorry, yeah,
not
number
7th
seven
pick.
rank. Yeah, my
Come on,
bad.
man.
This ain't the draft.
No.
My number seventh rank would be Inside Out. I as soon as I saw
Hmm.
Inside Out, I thought it was first and foremost. I watched it as an adult, right? Or like a pseudo adult. So when I watched it, it didn't really have that much of an emotional impact on me. Whereas I feel like it would have a huge impact on kids, right? Whereas the more grown up we get, the more we start to rationalize certain emotions and whatnot. However, like as a kid, everything is so volatile and everything either sets you off or does not, and you're really happy. This was one of those movies where it showed you that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to like be down in the dumps because there's all these different things at play. And the fact that they were able to visualize emotions like that, and the fact that they were able to bring these things to life and tell such a cohesive story and make it okay for you to feel different emotions and not be scared of them or hide them. I thought that's a huge takeaway that I had from this movie. Not because I liked it as an adult, but I think it's so important for children to know this and start to be okay with showing feelings, especially because we tend to always say, oh, like life is so good, life is so happy. It's not always happy, and even as a kid, like life isn't great. As much as adults, we can say, hey, I wish we can go back in time and be children. Life wasn't always great as children, right? Like yeah, like elementary school's tough for kids, high school's tough for kids, and the older you get, the more you start to come into your own, and the more you start to hang out with people that are that vibe with you, right? Whereas a kid, you're just being friends with everybody, and who knows what these kids are thinking, and who knows what other kids, and you're also more in your head about what other people think of you. So there's all these emotions at play, and for them to sort of rationalize, hey, you can feel these things and it's still normal, was fantastic, and it's a huge movie if you're a child or if you're a kid.
For every reason you said, that's why Inside Out's in my top 5.
Okay.
Because I felt like it was the first big budget movie for everyone that makes social anxiety and depression and everything go through a norm, like something
Mm-hmm.
that's real or something that exists, and what
Mm-hmm.
sort of goes on in each person's head. Like when you talk, like especially with depression, like it's real no matter what age group you're in or how you're feeling or what kind of life you have. Like it's not like the child that's the main character in this movie. It's not like they have a live in a bad home, right? It's not like they're going through some physical trauma or anything like that, but it doesn't control what's going inside your head.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why to me it's in my top 5. So I'm for the reason you said, I'm surprised it didn't make it top 5 because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people thought of Inside Out as one of the best Pixar movies
Okay.
before
Yeah.
Soul, which I'm sure you and I have that highly ranked in our rankings. That's I'm sure that's something we agree on. But yeah, so because for my number 7, for it again for the same reasons why I have Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo is The Incredibles, right? Reason The Incredibles it got higher than Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo. It's a superhero element. Like I grew up on superheroes and loved the whole idea of superheroes and the sort of villainized of these superheroes. It kind of had the what's that movie? The Watchmen, where these superheroes end up sort of being against the law and everything like that. So, Incredibles again, one of those movies, and it's Incredibles, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo. They all came within 3 years of each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's like 2001 and 2004 is where all these movies came out, and that's where like, hey, like we're here. right? And they had this massive run with these three movies. That's like Monsters Inc., which was in 2007, 2001, sorry, was like, hey, like we're here, Pictures aren't going anywhere, and they pump out two more movies like that. Because up to 2007, they had Monsters Inc. in 2001, Finding Nemo 2003, Incredibles 2004, and Ratatouille in 2007. I'm missing something else in there too. Like there's quite a run in the 7 years there, and that's where when Disney forked up the 7.5 billion to buy them out in 2006. But yeah, Incredibles is one of the things I loved it, entertaining, and maybe I think these rankings are a reflection of how I think about Pixar now versus when I first thought about Pixar. Because Pixar now is like, okay, what kind of message am I getting away from this, and what kind of emotional attachment I'm getting away from this, and that's why some of these great classic Pixar movies have dropped in rankings for me.
That's okay, yeah, because I was gonna bring that up. To have 10 to 7, a lot of them are filled with classic Pixar movies, whereas I'm the exact opposite. I'm not saying a lot of mine at the bottom are newer ones, but I feed off nostalgia a lot, and so that's why like the top half of my list is very directed at like that certain time period. However, I certainly thought that you're like the older ones would be high for you as well because I thought you also fed off nostalgia, but you're being logical about this, whereas I'm being illogical. Which I mean, it sort of
No,
makes sense. As a movie
I
lover.
wouldn't even say logical. Like I said, like we said, right? These are favorites. These are our personal favorite
Right.
Pixar movies. So if someone asked me, like, okay, let's watch all your what's your favorite movie right now? Like, I'm not gonna pick these movies first. Like again, rewatchability is part of it. Sometimes I just want to watch it, have a fun time, and watch Monsters Inc. Sometimes I want to get a little deeper and watch something like Inside Out, right? So it depends on what the mood is that day, but overall, this is how I feel. Because I guess that the reflection of these movies are the reflection of just the character growth. Pixar is one character, and to me, watching this movie is the character growth of it, and watching it blossom and watching it like see where it's going. And my personal taste in movies also has gone through a growth. Where like I joke, we still talk about all the time. I love the silliness of like the Fast Furious series. I love like the action buddy cops, but at the same time, like I don't know if I would like The Godfather when I was 9 years old, right? Like
No.
I'm not going to watch that,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to watch even some of these Pixar movies. Like one again, I'm gonna say my other ranking for later, but some movies were like in that moment, if I watched as a kid, I don't know if I'd enjoy it, but I just it's perfect. It's a perfect movie, and it gets becomes more perfect every time I watch it. But for yeah, so that's my number 7 for me. So to wrap up our top 5 for today, who do you have at number 6?
For number 6, I have Cars. Uh, I
It did
thoroughly
make it did make my top 10.
really
Yeah, it did make my top 10.
I I like Cars because of two things, or because of two characters mainly, Mater and Doc Hudson,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
I was a huge fan of
yeah.
like Cars, not the movie, but like actual Cars. Since I was a kid, and so to have all of these, like they were like real race cars. Like the Hudson Hornet was a real car. They had actual racers and stuff. Voice different characters in the movie, right?
And rest in
And
peace, Paul. Rest in peace, Paul Newman. Like
rest in peace.
what a
Exactly, right?
what a
They
great yeah.
they had built an entire universe around the fact that people really love cars, and you can watch the movie as a kid and take it at face value and say, "Oh, Lightning McQueen learned something from Doc Hudson," and that's the story. But all of those subtle nuances of like, no, we like dove deep into this world. We brought race announcers, we brought racers into this. We brought automotive designers, and they designed these cars to even like Sally, who was like a Porsche 911, right? Like all of those subtle hints is what makes this movie so great for me. Just because the attention to detail for something like this, when you're taking on something as important as cars, and car people are crazy, they'll look for these like subtle details, and there's like rankings about like which out of like the 100 Cars in the movie universe of Cars, which one do they like the best, and like which ones are based on real life stuff. So there's the fandom is crazy, and the more I started to dive deeper into it, the more I started to realize that the amount of research that went into this would have been insane. Similar to I know this is not Pixar, but like when Kung Fu Panda did this, like when they had people who went to China, and they read these things and they studied the art and such. Very very similar energy, because you're entering into a culture that Pixar said that they weren't too familiar with. So they brought on people who they breathe the automotive industry, and it really showed. And so I really enjoyed it for that reason.
Yeah, I didn't put Cars in there. Like, it's part of that early 2001 I was mentioning earlier, because that came out in 2006 or right after The Incredibles, and right before I think right before Ratatouille too. Is that it's again, it's one of those movies where like I get the love for it. I get why people enjoy it. I like the Cars element of it. Like, as a child, like, I did love that part. It's again, it's a movie I don't. It's not like I don't like the movie. I've rewatched the movie a few times, but it's just for me. There's so many of those movies where like they're fine, and it wasn't. I wasn't getting anything more of it. Like, I knew what the story was and I got the message, but I just feel like I wasn't getting more out of that versus what I was getting already from Monsters Inc. or Finding Nemo or my next movie, number six, Ratatouille. Right? So I know Ratatouille, and
Whoa.
this is hard for me. This was very hard for me to put there. Like, it actually hurt me inside to put Ratatouille number six, but my top five has meant so much to me, and I think that, once you hear my top five, you'll understand why why it got to number six. Ratatouille was in the moment phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal,
In the
and it's
moment.
incredible. In the moment, like it was, I remember being on the edge of my seat and just watching it, and just, being in love with the movie and the idea of it. And even today, I love it. It was That's why it's so hard for me to bring it so hard for me to put it number six, and for me to put Ratatouille number six. It had nothing to do with the movie. It really didn't. There's no flaw or anything in that movie where like it dropped. It's just that the five movies ahead I have ahead of it, it meant so much more to me. That's really my only reasoning why I have Ratatouille at six, is because
That's fair.
the five movies I have ahead of it meant way too much to me to not have to not change rankings around. So that's my number six.
Also,
I'm assuming you have Ratatouille at top five.
yeah, just before we sign off for this part of it, I wanted to bring up I'd seen Cars, just to bring it back to Cars for a second. I'd seen Cars, and then I was rewatching the Fast and Furious series, and I realized how much that first scene with the three Civics with the neon lights rolling up to the truck. I realized how that was a direct
Oh,
Pixar took that
100%.
almost like perfectly with the
100%.
first scene of Cars with the neon lights and Mac the truck. And I never realized that until I restarted watching until I started
Oh,
rewatching the Fast franchise for Fast Nine. I was like, oh, wait a minute, this looks all too familiar, and
yeah,
it's
from
it's
the first
gigantic.
the Fast and the Furious, because
Yeah,
the Fast
the
and Furious
Fast.
came out in 2001, right? So like it's a great homage to that. I loved it. But yeah, so I know it's I'm gonna sure. That's probably my first controversial take so far is having Ratatouille at six. But I think the biggest controversies are the movies that won't have my top 10 versus just where they're ranked. But yeah, Ratatouille number six, again, just purely because the movies I have ahead of it, I felt such a higher attachment to it versus what Ratatouille didn't do, because Ratatouille was almost perfect. I love that movie. Again, I get hungry every single time I think about that movie. The rats are cooking in the kitchen. There's the way at the end when the food critic comes in there and like, I can't remember what the dish is called, but they have the final dish and just have him go back to his passion of food, and like his mom cooking him home cooked meal for him and everything is just an incredible movie from beginning to end. And yeah, that's it for me, man. Those are my top five so far. So to recap my top five: number 10, Finding Nemo; number nine, Monsters Inc.; number eight, Coco; 7, The Incredibles; and number 6, Ratatouille.
right, we'll agree to disagree on number 6. But my top 5 so far would be Toy Story 3, Coco.
And number 10.
Yeah. So
No,
I
right?
guess.
You're 10 to 6. You're 10 to 6.
Yeah, that's what I said.
All right. You said top 5.
Oh, sorry, bottom 5, I guess.
Okay.
So 10 to 6 would be 10 would be Toy Story 3, as mentioned before. 9th would be Coco. 8 would be Finding Nemo. 7 would be Inside Out, and 6 would be Cars.
All right. So, guys, that's it for part 1. We will be back for part 2 with the remaining top 5 and a little surprise at the end of the next episode. But until next time, guys, catch you guys on Flippy Flop.
Peace and love.